Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today on another video, and today we're going to be comparing the Galaxy Note 8 to the iPhone X, and we're going to be finding out which one of these phones is the better buy. Now I'm going to be comparing these two based on both benchmarkings, just normal software usage, and comparing the cameras of these two phones to find out which one is the overall better phone. Now keep in mind that these tests are always subjective to, what kind of stuff you prioritize. So don't always think that just having the highest benchmarking numbers on Geekbench or something like that means that you have the best phone. It honestly depends on your real world usage, which I'll also talk about towards the end of the video. So let's get right into this video and let's compare the iPhone X and the Note 8. So let's start off with the unboxing experience of these two phones. So the iPhone X and the Note 8 are quite different when it comes to the unboxing experience, and I just want to share this with you guys. And I've gotten comments on my previous videos about why I need to show off a box when I'm comparing a phone, and in my opinion, the box is a part of the phone. It's a part of the experience of the phone, and if you guys don't want to watch it, just skip ahead. I have links down in the description below to the exact timing of all the comparisons and tests that I ran, so you can just skip ahead to whatever you want to watch. But if you guys are seriously wondering what the unboxing experience of these two phones are like, let's get right into it. So let me start off with the iPhone X. So the iPhone X, very similar to almost any other iPhone out there right now. You have this designed by Apple in California paperwork on top first, and then the phone on the bottom. And the phone comes out fairly simply, and the phone just lies there on top. And then below that, we have the power adapter and AirPods. AirPods with the Lightning to 3.5mm adapter, and we also have our Lightning cable at the bottom. So not too extensive, just a very basic setup. The Note 8 is actually a lot cooler because let me just show you. Let me put the iPhone X to the side, and let me show you guys the Note 8. So the Note 8 has the sleeve. So once you take off the sleeve, you're left with this box that says Samsung, and what you can do now is lift it open like a book, like this. And you have your Note 8 on top. So unlike the iPhone, the first thing that you see when you open up the Note 8's box is the phone itself and not paperwork. So I'm actually a fan of that. I don't like this paperwork trend that now the paperwork comes on top instead of the phone. But not that big of a deal. It's just one part of it. So let me get this phone out real quick for you guys. So the phone comes out just like that. I'll put this to the side. Now below this, we have the tray that the phone sits on, and then this little packet. So on the back of this, we have the SIM eject tool for the phone, and then we have inside a case along with the paperwork, quick start guide, all that. You can see that the Note 8 does come with a case. The iPhone X does not. Then in the box, we have a lot of goodies. We have the adaptive fast charger for the Galaxy Note 8. It's a quick charger so that you don't have to buy another one like you do with Apple. And then in the box we have a USB Type-C to USB Type-A adapter. This adapter can be used to transfer data from your old phone or just transfer data using a flash drive or whatever. It's compatible with both, I've checked. And then we have another USB-C to micro USB adapter. It's a very tiny little adapter, and the purpose for this adapter here is that you can charge up your phone using the micro USB cable in case you don't have a USB Type-C cable around. Then inside the box, we also have a bunch of extra tips and a tool to install the extra tips on the Note 8's S Pen. We have these very premium AKG wired headphones. They look very good. The cable is braided and just overall very high quality. And then we have the USB Type-C charging cable. And last but not least, we have some the ear tips for the AKG wired headphones that come in the box. So as you can see, the Note 8 very clearly has a lot more accessories to play with, as well as just, it kind of shows you guys that this phone is going to be geared a lot more towards being versatile instead of being like the iPhone. So let's move on and let me show you the next test. Alright everybody, so let's move on to the physical appearance of both of these devices. So as you can see, both of them have full screen displays, but they have different takes at it. The Galaxy Note 8 uses the almost like bezel-less size, and there's a little bit of a chin on both the top and the bottom, whereas the iPhone 10 on the other hand, it has this notch, and the entire rest of the front of the phone is the display. And after using it for a while, I kind of like this setup better. However, for watching videos and movies, this one is way better because none of your information is cut off like it is on the iPhone 10. However, regardless, because of the aspect ratio of both of these phones, in order to get the full screen experience, what you have to do is you have to expand them, and that kind of loses detail as well. However, it's not too bad when you compare it to just watching on an old phone with those huge bezels like the iPhone 7 or 8, something like that. So let me show you guys some more physical traits of these phones. So if we flip them over to the back, the iPhone 10 and Note 8, again, very different design languages here. Let me zoom in. So both of these have dual camera setups here, and they go about them slightly differently. The Galaxy Note 8 has this horizontal setup with two side by side here, and then it has the fingerprint, the heart rate monitor thing right next to it, as well as the fingerprint scanner right beside it. The iPhone 10, on the other hand, it has the vertical layout, one on top, one on the bottom, with the flash unit sitting in the middle. I forgot to mention to you guys, this sensor also acts as the flash unit on the Galaxy Note 8, so let me just activate that for you guys. So as you can see, that also doubled up as the flash unit. There you go, so you guys can see that. And very interesting use of space here. Both of them are very good solutions. However, I do feel like Apple was able to fit more into this small little area than the Note did. The Note has quite a large area for this entire setup. However, it's understandable because there is that fingerprint scanner as well. One thing that Apple did leave out of the iPhone 10, and which I find very annoying. So moving on, both these phones have a different design language when it comes to the body as well. So the Note 8 uses curved edges on both sides of the phone. So they kind of taper on both sides, which makes it very easy to grip. The iPhone 10 has this very strong stainless steel metallic chassis here, which isn't curved. I mean, the displays are kind of curved, however, they really don't have a taper on the edges. So they do feel very, it's traditional in design. However, the Note 8 feels quite different. One thing that I did notice while I was using both of these phones, and something that heavy power users should consider, is that the shape of the phone really does affect your long-term usability. So since the iPhone 10 has a nice rounded edge, as well as the Galaxy S8, they're a lot more comfortable to hold in your palm like this all day because it doesn't poke you in your palm. Whereas the Note 8, I've noticed already, only in a couple of days use, that it does start to poke you, and it gets a little bit annoying after a long period of use, maybe after 20-30 minutes of continuous usage of the phone. It does start to feel a little bit annoying, so that's there. And one of the last physical things here we have going is that both of these phones have an array of sensors at the top here. The Note 8 spreads them across the entire top chin. The iPhone 10 manages to fit everything into the small little notch that they have included. So it's very interesting to see how these two phones have gone about each other, and I'm going to be more interested to see next year when maybe Apple is planning on building a bigger phone, and not just a 5.8 version, maybe even a 6-inch and bigger phone that will rival the Note 8 in size. So let's move on to the software experience. Now, in my frank opinion, software is exactly where most of you people will be making the decision for which phone you buy, because software is such an important part of a phone now because of just the way they interact and how they're built and what functionalities they provide now. So both of them have, apps are now cross-compatible. You have almost all apps on all the phones, but software plays a huge role because you get specialized features such as iPhones have iMessage, iCloud, the entire Apple suite. So if you have multiple Apple devices, if you have a MacBook or if you have an iPad or something, the iPhone 10 will pair perfectly with that, and honestly, it's going to be so much more comfortable to use than an Android phone. So just simple tasks such as transferring files from the Note to a computer, a MacBook in particular, is very difficult. It's not easy and it gets annoying. However, if you do have a Mac, iPhones are very good to pair up with them. You can use AirDrop. AirDrop is such an amazing functionality, and not a lot of people understand why it's so good. I mean, you can quickly drop files such as photos, anything, videos, a lot of stuff, especially for a content creator like me, who's, you know, taking constant photos that I need to have on the computer to edit or something like that. That's when the iPhone's iOS kind of comes in and saves the day for me. Android, on the other hand, it's a lot more. I feel like Android on its own could be a computer operating system if you were looking to do some limited basic tasks, because it can do almost everything. You can download files, edit them, you know, just upload them. It's a lot more versatile than the iPhone when it comes to just software, in the sense that you can customize it, you can get a lot more cool stuff. There's themes inbuilt. I mean, like, you can change the theme from the manufacturer, and there's a lot of cool stuff like that, which the iPhone doesn't provide. The extent of customization on iPhones is limited to just the wallpapers and the layout you choose for the home screen. Whereas the Galaxy Note 8 really does, not just the Galaxy Note 8, but Android in general just goes a huge step further and allows you a lot more customization, which is very valuable to some people. However, for a person like me, I like a neat, clean layout. You can even see with all the customization options, my home screen is so, it's just basic, and I like it that way because I want to keep things simple. So that's why Android for me is a number one. It comes slightly behind. I can't live without an Android phone, but if you were forcing me to go with a single phone, that would be an iOS device, mainly because of all the other Apple products I have. It just works a lot more seamlessly with it. However, if you don't have a lot of other Apple products, and this is kind of going to be your main phone, the only thing that you'll be using, definitely the Note 8 is a lot better. So just let me show you some common apps to show you guys what they look like. So this is the dialer app on both the phones. So on the iPhone, now since you don't have a home button, it's all gesture based, so you can swipe up to close an app, whereas the Note 8 still has these on-screen keys, which are a lot more comfortable in my opinion. They don't take as much time getting used to as the Note 8, the iPhone 10 did for me. However, I'm fairly certain that in the future, these on-screen buttons are going to go bye-bye as well, and everybody's kind of move into that gesture-themed, gesture-based control for their OSs as well. So just showing you guys some other quick stuff, like here's Control Center on both the phones, so you can have, there's a lot of options now on both these phones, so you really don't have anything that's missing from either when it comes to quick settings and toggles like that. Then there's also notifications. Notifications are also a big thing. So notifications on iPhone are a mess. You can just see right here, I have a mess of notifications, and I can never, ever sort these notifications using the Apple's notification arrangement because it's so stupid. Android, it groups them together nicely, and if you do get a lot of notifications and you want to stay organized and on top of them, this Android and generally the Galaxy is the way you want to go here. Alright guys, so let's compare the boot times of both these phones. So let me power both of them down. So the Note 8, power off, and for the iPhone, we have to hold down the power up and power down button. There we go. So both are powering down. So now that they are powering down, what I'm going to be doing is turning them on at the exact same time to see which one loads up faster. I'm going to guess it's the iPhone because the iPhone really has one of the fastest boot up times of all these phones out there. So let me just check and make sure both these phones are off. All right, I'm just going to give a couple more seconds and then we're going to boot them right up. So in 3, 2, 1, now. All right. So I got vibration feedback from the Note 8 first, and it did show the screen up first. The iPhone came up about a second later. So let's see which one loads up first. All right. Very close to each other, but the iPhone beat it out by about 1 second I saw there, and that's one of the best parts about the iPhone, I feel like. But both of these phones are super quick, and I'm very impressed. So let's move on. Alright everybody, for this part of the test, we're going to be testing the audio output of both the Note 8 and the iPhone 10. So keep in mind right here that the Note 8 only has a single firing speaker. iPhone 10 has dual speakers, so let's see what the quality is like. And I have my mic set up right here so that you guys can try to get as close to the audio experience as possible. It's never justifiable, especially through video, but I'm going to try to make the best of this so you guys can at least get some sense of what the quality is like. And I'm going to play the same song for about 30 seconds on both of them. So while I'm playing the same song on both of these phones, I'll have the decibelmeter And what we'll be doing is we'll just be seeing what the maximum range on the decibelometer is. So let me just turn it off, reset it, be very quiet, and just play the song so that the reading is as accurate as possible. And I'm going to hold it over the phone right near the microphone like this so that you guys can see what the actual number is. So I'm just going to zoom out and we're going to get right to it. So we got about 94.2 decibel on the Note 8. Let me just move the mic and let's do the same test again with the iPhone X. So the maximum volume on the iPhone X was 95.7 decibel. So while the decibelometer was very close to each other, what I think that in all fairness is that the iPhone X just has a lot better speakers. The dual speakers just sound a lot deeper. The bass is better. Everything else is better. But just looking at the displays right now, to be very frank with you guys, just look at it and you tell me which one you think is better. Obviously, the Note 8 is just killing it. Look at that detail. Look at the display. It's just ridiculous. So I really feel bad that the Note 8 doesn't have dual speakers because that's the only real letdown of this phone. The speakers really let it down. I can't watch movies using the speakers on this because they're just not as loud. So I need to use headphones or something to actually get the real immersive experience of it. Whereas the iPhone X doesn't have that problem. The speakers are excellent. So it's a give and take here. The display on the Note 8 is slightly better. Speakers on the iPhone X a lot better. So it really comes down to what you guys want. So let's move on. Alright guys, so for this portion of the test, let's get into the benchmark. So I'm going to start off with an internet speed test, move on to Geekbench, and then finally move on to Antutu. And while I'm running the Antutu benchmark, I'm going to use my laser heat gun to find out the exact temperature of both phones as Antutu is running, because Antutu is a graphics-based performance measure and it will really put the phones to their ultimate tests. So let me put on the speed test for both phones first, and what we're going to be doing is the iPhone first, then the Note 8, because I don't want there to be a discrepancy in the score, because if I do start them at the same time, there's going to be, obviously one of them is going to get a higher bandwidth. So let's get the iPhone first, move on to the Note, and then I'll meet you once both the tests are over. So in this test, you can see that the iPhone X and the Note 8, both very close to each other. iPhone X got 85 down, 94 up. Note 8 got 82 down and 93 up, both like within an Mbps or two of themselves. So not too bad. Obviously slightly faster on the Note 8, but nothing that would really set them apart too much. So very cool. So let's move on to the next part of this test, which is Geekbench. Again, same process. I'm going to run Geekbench for you guys, and then I'm just going to wait, and we will see what exactly the score is, and I'll meet you guys back once the score is over. So I'm just going to speed this up for you guys. Alright everybody, so the Geekbench test is done. So, alright guys, so both of these tests are done. The Geekbench test is done on both the iPhone and the Galaxy Note 8, and surprisingly, both are so far apart, it's actually ridiculous, because The single core score is double. The multi-core score is near double on the iPhone. So it just goes to show, even with almost half the RAM and very much lower specs than the Galaxy Note 8, that optimization goes a far, far way on the iPhone 10. So let's move on to Antutu benchmarks. So just as I was doing this test, I was checking the temperature of both these phones. So just a quick note was that the Galaxy Note 8 was running slightly cooler than the iPhone 10, about 5 degrees Fahrenheit cooler at most of the tests. So keep that in mind. It's looking like the Note 8 is a lot more cooler. It runs cooler than the iPhone 10. So let's move on to Antutu and see what the actual numbers are with the temperature, because it does get a lot more intensive. So let's start off with that. Let me just show you guys that both the phones have no apps open. So all the apps have been closed. So there's going to be a fair fight between the two. So let's go to Antutu on both and start the test again. So ready, set, go. All right, both the tests are started. I'm going to be checking the heat with my gun here, and we'll see exactly what the temperature was on both devices and which one was running cooler and which one had the highest temperature. So the iPhone just completed the Antutu benchmark, and the highest temperature I'm getting is about 98 degrees on the iPhone around this point, and the rest of the phone is at about 90, 88 degrees. So in the high 80s, low 90s. Note 8 still running, and about the same results here. Slightly cooler than the iPhone, however, very close to it. So let's see, once the Note 8 is done, I'll run the temperature test again. So here are the exact results of the Antutu benchmark. Let me just do a final temperature reading of the Galaxy Note 8 to see where it's at. So highest it got was at about 96 degrees at one point during the test. Otherwise, it's been in the low 90s, high 80s the entire time during this test and Geekbench as well. So very interesting to see. The score is something different. The score, obviously the iPhone 10 has a higher score, and the Note 8 has a lower score. It's just weird to see that in benchmarks, for some reason, the iPhone always beats out all the Android phones out there. What's surprising to me, however, is the RAM score, because the Galaxy S8, the Note 8 has 6 gigs of RAM over the 3 gigs in the iPhone 10. However, the iPhone 10 still has a higher RAM score, which is a very interesting thing to see. Benchmarks never tell the full story, but they definitely give you a place to stand. So while I'm not going to decide anything based on a benchmark for today's results, the fact of the matter is that the iPhone seems to always crush the benchmarks, whereas the Note 8 really hasn't. However, in performance, in real-world performance, what I've noticed is not the same. They both perform very well, and you really wouldn't really notice any kind of lag or slowdowns on either phones as of now. Maybe in the future, we'll see. However, I don't really think that phones this strong should be having any problems, at least in the year or two to come. So let's move on to the next part. So moving on into the camera comparison of the Galaxy Note 8 and the iPhone 10, the first photo we have here is very similar, and both of them seem to have very equal performance. I didn't see any of the phones outshine each other in any aspect, to be honest. Both of them have very good clarity, focus, and everything just looks absolutely fine in both of these. So let's move on to the next image, where there's a little bit of color. So in this image, there is a little bit of a difference between the two phones, and the most noticeable difference has to be the saturation and the punchier colors of the iPhone 10 camera. So the Note 8 has about the same clarity, I would say, just it's a little bit less punchy in colors. So I think that when you're looking at photos of flowers and stuff, punchier colors really do make it look a little bit more alive. So I think that the iPhone 10 is a little bit, it just inches out the Note 8 here. However, clarity and focus and all that is almost equivalent on both of them. So let's move on to the next photo. Now this is an indoor shot in extreme low light. So even despite being very low light, I'm glad that both the phones performed very decently. Now, if you do notice that the Galaxy Note 8 tends to have a little bit more of detail when, especially looking at the home button of the iPhone, it's a lot more clearer on the Note 8 than it is on the iPhone 10. However, when you compare the noise and everything else, everything on both the phones just seems to be equivalent. One thing that is clearly visible is that the Note 8 has a much cooler temperature, whereas the iPhone 10 is a much warmer temperature, so you have that yellowish tint on the iPhone 10 photo, whereas there's a bluish one on the Note 8. So that's about that, but I think both of them perform very good in low light. So let's move on. So here we have the front camera on both the Galaxy Note 8 and the iPhone 10, and honestly, it looks like the iPhone 10 has a lot more detail, especially if you notice the pimple right above my eyebrow. You can see that it's a lot clearer on the iPhone 10, whereas the Note 8 isn't. However, where the Note 8 does have the advantage is it's a lot wider angled, so you get a lot more of detail into that single frame. It's a lot more useful in my opinion, especially if you have if you're taking selfies with groups and a lot of people in them. And honestly, that's what I usually use selfies for. So for me, I would prefer the Note 8's wide angle over the detail in the iPhone 10. However, both of them are very good cameras, and it honestly comes down to whether you want the wide angle or the detail between the two. So I think in conclusion, between the photos of these two devices, they're very similar to each other. I really don't see any major differences between the two. So that's very interesting to see that both cameras are now neck and neck to each other, and generally it's if the iPhone beats the Note 8 out in one area, the Note 8 beats it out in the other. So very equally matched opponents. And the one key thing I see is that the Note 8 seems to be a little bit cooler in color. iPhone's a little bit warmer in color, and if you just have to decide at this point which kind of photos you preferred, because both of them are very good photos. It's not like one of them is bad and one of them is excellent. It's just, it all comes down now to personal preference of which one you like. So let's move on to the video test, where you guys can see the rear and front camera videos on the highest settings to see what the comparison is like there. Alright guys, so this is the camera test of the Galaxy Note 8 on the left and the iPhone 10 on the right. Both of them are on their highest available settings for the video mode, and let me know what you guys think about this. What does the stabilization look like, and generally what is the what do you feel about the colors, the motion, the stabilization, all that stuff? And let me know what you guys think. So let me know what you guys are thinking about this. I'm just going to do some quick pans and some walking shots and some random stuff so that you guys can get some more information and detail over here. Alright. Alright guys, so this is the front camera test of both the iPhone 10 and the Galaxy Note 8. And one thing I'm seeing off the bat here is that the iPhone looks like it has a lot more detail and generally just looks a lot sharper. The Note 8 has a wider angle, but it's looking like it's kind of washing out details on my face, such as, some pimples and stuff. So let me know what you guys think about it. I'm just going to move it around a little bit, and let me know. That's a wrap for this video, guys. So that was the comparison of the Galaxy Note 8 and the iPhone 10. Now, you guys let me know what you thought about these two phones. Now, in my conclusion, what I'm going to be saying is that both these phones are very cool, but it honestly depends on the type of user you are. If you're going to have only this as your main phone and nothing else, like no computer or something, probably the Galaxy Note 8 is the better move here. But if you have a computer and you work cross-platform with your computer, phone, and iPad, something like that, iPhone 10 is the way to go. And there's a lot of variations there, and I want to know what you guys think. Which one of these did you pick up if you picked up a phone, or did you pick up some other flagship that you think was better than these? And let me know why you picked that one up instead of these. And as I was telling you guys earlier at the beginning of the video, specs aren't always key, and benchmarks aren't always the best way to gauge the optimum performance of a phone. That really comes down to real world usage. What do they feel like when you're using them? And both of these phones feel excellent while you're using them, and honestly, any one of them will make you very happy and they'll serve you very well. The only issue what it comes down to is what your software preference is, to be honest. Anybody who asks me between an iPhone or any other phone, I tell them a simple question: which software do you want to use? Because honestly, phones and hardware are so good today that you really don't have to compromise anymore. All you're really compromising between is software. So that was my conclusion for this video, guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more comparative videos on the Galaxy Note 8, and be sure to hit that bell icon to stay up to date with my updates and know when I'm updating another video on this. So if you want to know more about these devices, follow me on social media. I have all the links down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.